Welcome to the presentation of the first module of the MOOC on sustainable textile and Unit 1.1, Introduction to Sustainability, which has been prepared by Creative Thinking Development. In this unit, we will go through sustainability versus sustainable development, the definition of sustainability, the birth of modern sustainability ideas, the global sustainability challenges, the Brundtland Report, the three pillars of sustainability, sustainable development as a core element of international policy, the UN 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals, and finally, the 169 Action Targets. Sustainability versus sustainable development. Sustainability is generally known as the ability of a system, be it social, financial, or environmental, to maintain itself throughout time without harming future generations. Sustainable development, on the other hand, is the process of attaining economic, social, and environmental growth while meeting current needs without endangering the capacity of future generations to meet their own. Sustainable development is the pathway to sustainability. Possibly the best approach to a definition for sustainable development is proposed in the UN Brundtland Commission report that says, quote, "Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs." The birth of modern sustainability ideas. Although it has ancient roots, the modern concept of sustainable development emerged in the 20th century as a result of increased awareness of social injustice and environmental degradation. And it has been said that sustainability is a very new old concept. The pre-industrial era was the era of traditional ecological wisdom, where the early societies recognized the need for balance between resource use and nature's capacity for regeneration. There was crop rotation, agroforestry, and seasonal hunting. The 18th to 19th century was characterized by the rise of industrialization, and the first environmental concerns arose. With the Industrial Revolution, mass production and modern industry flourished, but also led to severe environmental impact, widespread resource depletion, and social inequality. In the early 20th century was set the foundations of modern environmentalism, where the early conservation movement focused on the need to balance the development with the environmental preservation. The post-World War II era was the era of economic growth versus the era of environmental protection. After World War II, economic growth became the dominant global priority, with rapid industrialization, urbanization, and technological advancement, along with significant environmental degradation. The 1980s is considered to be the decade of modern environmentalism, where sustainable development gains attention. It is the era with environmental catastrophic events like Seveso, Bhopal, Exxon Valdez, and Chernobyl. Meanwhile, growing concerns for the rise of deforestation, pollution, and desertification, as well as social issues, and the concept of sustainable development starts to take form and become popular in international policy discussion. Global sustainability challenges. First is the environmental crisis with the climate change and its impact, the resource depletion regarding water, energy, and raw materials, the waste and pollution issues, and the biodiversity and ecosystems at risk. Second are the economic challenges, where unsustainable practices lead to resource scarcity and economic instability. And finally, are the social implications from inequities derived from resource distribution leading to global disparities. The Brundtland Report. The United Nations was one of the first institutions to acknowledge the growing concerns of the public about unchecked economic growth at the expense of the environment and the people. In 1972, UN organized the UN Conference on the Human Environment in Stockholm, which had a deep impact on the enforcement of environmental policies in many countries all over the world that led to the establishment of UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program. In 1987, the now famous Brundtland Report was published. The report was produced by the World Commission on Environment and Development, WCED, which had been set up by the UN General Assembly in 1983, chaired by Gro Harlem Brundtland, the Prime Minister of Norway. The three pillars of sustainability. A particularly frequent description of sustainability from sustainable development is that employs three interconnected pillars that encompass economic, social, and environmental, or ecological factors, or objectives. They are also known as the three Ps of sustainability: people, profit, planet, or three principles of sustainability. These three dimensions are often presented in the form of three circles that intersect, and sustainability is placed at the intersection. The circles refer first to the environmental sustainability, which includes the preservation of natural resources while addressing climate change. Second, it refers to social sustainability, which includes social justice and well-being. And finally, the economic sustainability that contributes to an economy to supports a high standard of living for its citizens. Sustainable development as a core element of international policy. In the 1990s, sustainable development is considered a core element of international policy. In the 1992 and the Earth Summit that was conducted in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the Agenda 21 and the Rio Declaration was produced. In 1997, the Kyoto Protocol was the first international agreement to set legally binding targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Kyoto Protocol was entered into force 2005. In 2000, the UN adopts the Millennium Development Goals, and in 2015, the Paris Agreement is negotiated by 196 parties at the UN Climate Change Conference. It was a historic agreement aimed at limiting global warming to below 2 points of Celsius. As of 2023, the agreement has 195 signatories. The UN 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. In 2015, the UN approved the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, an international agreement signed by 193 member countries, as an opportunity for the countries and their societies to embark on a new path towards a better and more sustainable future. At its heart are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which are an urgent call for action by all countries, developed and developing, in a global partnership. In the picture are depicted the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as adopted by the UN. The short titles of the 17 SDGs are No Poverty, SDG 1, Zero Hunger, SDG 2, Good Health and Well-Being, SDG 3, Quality Education, SDG 4, Gender Equality, SDG 5, Clean Water and Sanitation, SDG 6, Affordable and Clean Energy, SDG 7, Decent Work and Economic Growth, SDG 8, Industry, Innovation and Infrastructure, SDG 9, Reduced Inequalities, SDG 10, Sustainable Cities and Communities, SDG 11, Responsible Consumption and Production, SDG 12, Climate Action, SDG 13, Life Below Water, SDG 14, Life on Land, SDG 15, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institutions, SDG 16, and Partnerships for the Goals, SDG 17. 169 Action Targets. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals include 169 action targets, which address the fundamental causes of poverty and the violation of human rights, and propose changes for all people and the planet, from the three fundamental dimensions: the economic, the social, and the environmental. Thank you for your attention.